Hi, my name is Sean Mulcahy and I'm the Greens candidate for Bentley. I've got to say one of the most rewarding things about campaigning in the local area is the opportunity to meet people and learn about the issues that are important to them. Tonight I'm here to answer questions that have been submitted to me through the Our Say forum, so why not jump straight into it? The first question comes from Fraser, and Fraser's a student at Brighton Secondary College, and he asks, what is going to be done about the cleanliness and future expansion of our parks and recreation system? And also, what are future funding plans for parks in Glen Ira? It's a great question, Fraser, and parks are something that I'm particularly passionate about. The problem is, however, that Bentley has one of the lowest rates of open space of anywhere in metropolitan Melbourne. What that means is that we don't have enough parks and open space to cater to the growing population we have in Bentley and McKinnon and Hampton East and Brighton East as well too. But the Greens have a plan. The Greens will firstly introduce a Melbourne-wide open space strategy that will guide the development of new parks and open space all across Bentley. Secondly, we'll introduce density targets for activity centres and other residential areas that give due consideration to both the provision of open space as well as the protection of the existing canopy trees that we have all across Bentley. And we'll also have a planning strategy for Greater Melbourne which protects and expands our public open space. And finally, we'll ensure that health and well-being is an objective of our planning scheme and planning provisions to make sure that major developments have health and well-being as a central consideration in their design. So with population growth and urban consolidation, our green open space is under threat, and only the Greens have a plan to make sure that we have more parks and open space across Bentley. Our second question comes from Rick, and Rick writes in that the science is settled. There has been no significant increase in global temperatures for nearly 2 decades, and he asks, why are we needlessly wasting taxpayers' money on supporting green schemes to lower the amount of carbon dioxide emissions when there's absolutely no need to do so? Well, Rick, we're probably going to agree to disagree on this point, but you're right in one respect. The science is in, and 97% of scientists believe that climate change is happening. So even if you're part of the 3% that don't believe the evidence, it makes economic sense to invest in clean and green and renewable energy. So this election, the Greens will reduce your power bills through making it cheaper and easier to install rooftop solar, and make sure you get a decent amount of money back for what you feed back into the system. So it's not just good for you living at home, it's great for our local schools as well too. And I know so many of our local schools like Southmore, like Bentley West, like Bentley Secondary are really leading the way on this. Secondly, it makes sense to invest in renewable energy because it will create new jobs. What we've seen under the Liberals' anti-wind farm laws is the loss of 100 jobs in Portland. So we'll axe these laws and we'll create new jobs in manufacturing and key knowledge industries like science and engineering. And finally, the Greens will close down dirty coal-fired power stations. Power stations like Hazelwood cost the state tens of millions of dollars to maintain. So it makes economic sense and environmental sense to shut these old coal-fired power stations down. So even if you're not a believer, the Greens' clean energy policies make good environmental and economic sense. And our final question comes from Julia and Jessica, who are both 15. And Julia and Jessica ask, why does the Victorian government disregard educational experts on what to invest in when funding schools? And why does funding always have to be put into building construction? Julia and Jessica write that there are numerous other components of schooling that could use the money. And it's a great question, and again, something I'm really passionate about. For me, education has played a fundamental part in my life. I studied at a local school down in St Bede's in Mentone, and then I went on to study at Monash University, and now I even work in higher education at Melbourne University and Victoria University. So I see the value in investing in education. But what we see at the moment is, according to the Victorian Auditor General, there's something like a $300 million maintenance backlog in Victorian schools, and $16 million is needed to bring schools across the southern suburbs just up to a basic minimum standard. But you're right, it's not just about school maintenance. The Greens believe that we need a school funding model that's based on need and equity, not political capital. What we often see is money going to schools that are in marginal seats when there's needy schools who aren't in marginal seats and have to put out the begging bowl each election. We want a clear and transparent system where funding goes based on where it's needed. Secondly, the Greens support the Gonski funding model, and that means the provision of more individualised support for students across schools. And we'd also like to see reduced class sizes. That means that teachers can provide more support for the students in their classes. And finally, we'll bring back the education maintenance allowance and ensure that students can participate in camps, excursions and musical programs too. So the Greens plan is really about setting you up for a bright future through investing in schools, and not only schools but also TAFE and higher education. What we want to do is open up your possibilities so that you can move into any job or career that you dream. So it's been a great opportunity to answer all of your questions that you've submitted online, and I look forward to the opportunity of meeting you on the local street and answering more of your questions down there. Otherwise, you can always get in contact with me online. My Facebook page is facebook.com/Sean Mulcahy Green. That's SeanMulcahyGrn. And the same for my Twitter page too. So don't hesitate to get in contact with me through Facebook, Twitter, or say hi to me when you see me down the street. Thanks again.